How's it going, everybody? I'm here with Mr. Jon Silva, and of course, I'm Irvin Pacheco with InView Media, and next to me is Ariana. So as far as like the people that we're bringing in, they're the people that I met through the journey that I've been going through as far as building the company, and of course, the people that I enjoy the most as far as like conversations when I'm at the listings, or if not, when I see them at random locations. I think I saw you at Blaze Pizza once. And of course, I'm always running into you at the office, so I'm always saying hi. And of course, I've gotten to know your dad. I've seen your mom maybe once, and maybe a brother. He's a contractor, right? Yeah. So as far as like to generalize, the whole idea of the podcast is to actually bring in people that we enjoy working with, and of course the people that I've seen the growth of the company as well. So if you could just give a brief introduction as far as like who you are and what you do, and of course, if you enjoy working with us, or if not, you know, it's up to you.
So just be honest,
right?
Okay. Well, yeah, like you said, my name is Jon Silva. I'm a team leader of my own real estate team at Keller Williams. We've got a couple agents on our team now. I've been licensed myself for about a little over 12 years now. But I didn't actually get into real estate and actually start using my license until about 6 years ago. So my dad's been in the business my entire life. I grew up around real estate and, you know, fixing houses and you know, just kind of exposed to that, but never really saw it as a career path for myself. But yeah, as I matured, went through a lot of sales type of jobs and things, kind of made my way back to real estate, and have really just fallen in love with it. I love the process. I love meeting new people, talking to people. I think that's why we have fun when we're at listings and stuff, is because we have a similar mindset, you know, around people and organization and growth and moving forward. So
yeah, we definitely have a lot of commonalities as far as like how we talk to each other. It's very humorous. So it's always very enjoyable to actually see you at the listing and understand that, like, even though you're the guy with the suit and I'm the guy with the t-shirt, I'm like, nah, John, you're the cool youth pastor, you know, and I'm always making fun of you as far as like when I'm doing the video. So I always enjoy the actual camaraderie that we actually like grown throughout the process that I've seen you. But yeah, definitely, like it's very enjoyable. As far as like your maturity level is from 6 to now, like what was the actual transition? Like that's 6 years. That's
maturity.
Like
Yeah, I'd say more like business maturity.
Oh,
right?
okay,
Like
gotcha.
I love to have fun. You know, obviously we joke around and stuff. But for me, it was maturity around like business organization, around paperwork, around like the actual duties or things that you have to do in order to actually grow a business or create a relationship with someone, right? And in the past, it was, you know, I just want to do something I'm going to make money, right? What can I do quick and make some money? And when I first was introduced to real estate, it was paperwork, right? And I'm not big for paperwork, right? But as I grew through some other jobs, like I said, some other sales jobs, and I learned more about the process to getting to, you know, being successful or, you know, or being a leader, right? My view of what a leader may have been then is different. And just understanding, you know, more of that organizational process and the necessity of different aspects helped me. So when I felt ready to come back to real estate, I could see the benefit of having different people with different hats, right? Like someone that is good at paperwork, that does enjoy that process, and actually help them to, you know, fulfill that as a small part of helping people, you know, buy and sell real estate.
Oh, okay. So you started to understand systems, I believe?
Yeah.
So like the idea of like you don't really have to handle everything by yourself. You could actually delegate certain work.
Right.
As far as like the paperwork that you're saying, or the emails that may have to be sent out, or all that stuff. So it's just more of the system work.
Right. Yeah, and that's what I feel is really cool about the team aspect of real estate is, and I consider InView Media part of my team, right? You're part of the benefits presentation that I do when I go and I meet with clients, right? I'm able to show, it's not me coming through with my cell phone or whatever, right? We have professionals coming in and really doing a really good job to showcase your property, because that's what people are concerned with. How are we going to get people into the house, right? And I've had shout out to you guys. I've had people come to me, call me out of the blue. They saw pictures on Zillow or they saw pictures somewhere online, and they said, "Wow, I've looked at pictures of other people's, listings, and yours stand out. They're awesome. I'd like you to come over and meet with us." And that's a big thing nowadays, right?
Yeah.
Is relationship, obviously, but how you present online is huge.
Visuals are really big right now. Yeah. Everyone is like.
That's awesome. As far as like the professionalism that you give out to your clients when you go to your listing agreements, and then they see me when I knock on the door, they're like, "Are you sure this guy's a professional?"
Of course. Of course. No, I talk
Look
to
at this kid.
guys before you
What are
come.
you talking about?
They know what they're expecting.
We expected some other person, maybe with a tie or something. This kid looks like it just came out of the streets.
When you were growing up, did like your dad want you to get into real estate? Was that anything he ever like pushed you guys into?
No, not at all. Like I said, I think it was more just exposure, right? My dad was really good about teaching us the value of work, the value of a dollar, and so a lot of my summers, were spent in his houses, right? He would buy and sell, flip houses, or rent them out. And, if I wanted something, he'd give me the opportunity to earn money to be able to
that's awesome.
buy something.
Yeah.
Right. And so through the course of that, it wasn't so much the interaction of buying and selling real estate, but understanding, a house, right? Taking off a roof, putting on a roof, laying tile, minor plumbing or electrical things, which helps so much now, right? I'm able to... It's just another benefit that I have when I work with people is I can walk through a house and I can tell them, we ought to take a look at this, or that looks out of place, and here's what, an appraiser might be looking for. And, I can help them to understand that just like with photography and anything else, I'm sure people have these astronomical ideas of what something might cost, right? Or what it takes to produce something, and helping them to chunk that down into, okay, no, what you're imagining is something that you don't understand. And so for you, that's some huge thing.
Yeah.
For a professional, someone who deals with it day in and day out.
You can help bridge that gap between like costs and like what it takes to actually
absolutely
make that happen.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like if I didn't have, professional photographers, videographers that I was working with, that's totally intimidating to me, right? Sure, I could sit down on Google Photos and try to change the light or whatever, but it doesn't compare in any way to what you guys are able to do with your experience, right? So same thing with that, and that was one of the things that I was able to, I think, build off of with my dad is I did a lot of that, going into houses and just learning about them.
Yeah. And within that transition that we're speaking about, was there a moment that you kind of like, was there a switch like that you're like, I have to go back to real estate because I did see something, or I could have benefited if I would have done it long term? What was it like that?
I mean, sure. I could have benefited had I, I could have been further along, in my real estate journey, team building journey, had I started sooner, right? But like I said, I went through a couple of job phases that I think helped to build me into a better communicator, a better real estate agent, right? Because it's not just buying and selling real estate.
Yeah,
right?
of
And
course.
that sounds like, oh, okay, you have some money and you walk up to someone and say, okay, I want to buy that, right? There's a lot more to it. The real estate, buying, selling, moving, those are like 3 of the top 10 most stressful things. I think maybe even top 5 is moving, most stressful things that you're ever going to do in your life, right? And many times people are not just selling a home, right? They're selling that home to go and buy another home. So now they're not just doing one of the top 5 most stressful things, they're doing 2 of them. And then, many times they're even doing that because something has happened in their family, maybe a death, right? Maybe they're selling the home because someone passed away, right? So it's not just, a transaction. There's a lot more involved with what we do, and a lot of times we joke around. We call ourselves therapists, and you know, and we are to a degree, right? We're helping people through these very stressful things, and so those other jobs that I did helped lead me to that. Where I was before, I was selling insurance before I came to real estate, and I was doing great, right? I was pretty successful. I felt comfortable. There really wasn't a reason to leave. But like I said, because my dad has been in it my whole life, it's kind of always been, just kind of something, you know. My dad's successful. You know, I know he's made a lot of money, and that's something that I've always valued. And I think one of the catalysts was I had my first kid. I was living in Texas selling insurance, and I had my first kid, and we were flying back and forth from Texas to California because my wife and I, both of our families are here. And there was times when I couldn't leave, right? I worked a day job. I had to be in the office. There's people walking in, there's expectations. And so one of the big draws for me was having more flexibility in my schedule, right? And knowing the success that I was having in my current job, I saw how I could transition that and potentially have more family time, right? Which is something that I really value.
Yeah.
So was that like the actual reasoning for like most of the idea of like, okay, I'm going to go to real estate because I want to cater more to like my family, my lifestyle. And of course the idea that I could see myself being more of a customer service type of person or personality. Cause you're saying you're like, when you're a realtor, you're not just doing transactions, you're also dealing with the client's emotions and whatever is they're going through at the time. I guess the transition of like going from a house or to buying a house.
Right.
Is that where you're kind of like going after? Like,
yeah. You know, I think, you know, for me, a lot of the transitions that I made between jobs and careers weren't that cut and dry. You know, I know a lot of people have like these, you know, these big defining moments that this is what it was, right? And I don't know that I really have that. I see it more of just I evolved as a person, and as I evolved through what I was doing, I could see more potential, right? And so it was more of an experiment, right?
Oh, okay.
Let's go and try this out and see how it works. If it doesn't, I know I've been successful selling insurance, right? I can always fall back on that, keep my license active, you know. So I think it was more of an experiment than it was, you know, some catalyst that sent me to real estate and, you know, made that happen.
yeah, like defining a moment in your life where like, oh, but in reality, it was just more of just like things happened and they kind of just occurred slowly, and then just it became what it was, and then luckily it did succeed, you know, because you're still doing you're still doing the listings.
No, it has,
Okay.
and it's been a good thing.
Okay,
right?
gotcha.
Okay.
No, that's
So
good.
then you moved from Texas back here 6 years ago?
Yeah. So
you
I was
just-
born and raised here.
Yeah.
My wife and I got married. We didn't have a lot of ties, and we moved around a little bit. We
Yeah.
ended up in Texas, North Dallas. We absolutely loved it.
Would you go
Like
back?
we've
then, you
talked
think?
talked about it before. Yeah, that's somewhere we'd definitely go back. It was just a different feel, right? Than California, just in a lot of ways. And I think part of it, for me at least, maybe not so much my wife, but part of it was being away from family, right? Having a bigger separation was kind of exciting at the time, right?
Yeah.
And so it made everything that we did that much more of a new experience, right? So it was just kind of exciting. But like I said, once we started growing our family, it was,
You're like, we
wait
need
a
help.
minute, no, you know, I grew up close to my grandparents.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I want my kids to be
That's
close to
nice.
grandparents, cousins, things like that. So
You have a big family?
I do, yeah. I'm the oldest of 6. Yeah.
That's a big family.
Yeah. Yeah. And lot of grandkids now, I think.
That's awesome.
Oh man, I birthdays and all that. I'm not good
Every
at, but I
week?
think we're up to like 13 or 14. My
Wow.
parents' grandbabies. Yeah.
Jesus.
So
So
cousins,
every
lots
other
of
week,
cousins.
you know, every other week there's a birthday.
Yeah, all the time. Yeah. That's
I have 9 siblings.
oh my goodness. Yeah.
It's
Right?
like, I have
Yeah.
a big family too. And my sister, my younger sister, is pregnant right now. So it's like that's the first baby that's coming in.
Oh,
Like,
really?
the new generation.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to think about. And I'm like, after this happens, is it going to be just like the floodgates are
Floodgates
open,
open.
and everyone's going to have like
Yeah.
babies? So it's crazy because people ask me a lot, like, oh, you must have a lot of nieces and nephews. And I'm like, actually, I don't. Like, I don't have any. And they're really surprised by that. So it's interesting to see when it's like how many I'll have. In the end.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, now we're getting towards the age that you're at. So all our friends are getting married.
Wow.
You know, people are starting to have kids. I'm like, my sister barely had her kid 6 months ago.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of getting into that routine of seeing like a little person at my house now.
Yeah.
I'm like, who you weren't around last year. Like, I don't even know you. Why are you smiling at me? You know? So it is definitely a new experience for me too, as far as like seeing your family grow and like, oh, you're the first Pacheco that is born in America, you know? It's like you're the first generation. So it's definitely like a new experience as far as like seeing your family grow, like and like seeing potentially where they're headed at as far as like now being here and establishing your own roots as far as like my family is coming from Mexico. I'm coming from Mexico too. So I don't have roots here.
Right.
So now she's going to have roots because of, what we've already established for her.
Yeah.
So it's fairly exciting,
That is really exciting. I was telling Irvin yesterday that, because I grew up out here too, but I remember seeing your guys' slogan, we'll sell your house at the price guaranteed or we'll buy it. And I was like, dude, I remember seeing that slogan before, like in like a newspaper or something, like growing up out here. And it like didn't hit me until like the other day when I was like driving and I was like, hold on a second. I've seen that before. It's so crazy how it's kind of a full circle moment for me where it's like, now we're like working with them and it's just like, you guys have been like you said, your dad's been doing it for a really
35
long time.
years.
That is a long time. It's older than me.
Has his whole real estate career been here, like in the Antelope Valley? Or
It has, yeah. I mean, he did some evolving also, right? He started out in loans, ended up transitioning out of that and more into the investing side. And, his story kind of feeds my story. Where he got out of lending at a time in the market when things were probably not too dissimilar than they are now, right? Market wise, but for him on the lending side, it was he just felt like it wasn't a good fit for him, and how he had to do business to get business
back then.
Right? Back then.
Okay.
So he kind of got out of that, got into investing, and then he had friends, longtime friends, things like that, coming to him after he had gotten out of that and asking questions. But a lot of the things that they were asking about their loan process, or hey, I got this and I'm doing this, what do you think? It was too late for him to say, oh no, you don't do it that way, do it this way, right? Let me actually help you. Let me not be the other guy who's making money on you. Let me be the guy to actually help you and do this right, in a way that's going to benefit you. And he had more and more of that happening, and he saw that kind of before you even get to the lending side of things, you're talking to a real estate agent usually, right? You're looking at houses, and at the time, he already had his license, so he thought, hey, maybe I'll just hang my real estate license with a broker. And that, I'm not looking to do business, but as these people come to me, I can actually help them, right? And not, he was seeing, he just felt like there was people being taken advantage of. A totally different way of doing things back then.
When it comes to the client side or that?
The client side.
Gotcha.
He just saw how the process could be improved if it was someone who actually cared about the person and not so much the transaction.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Does that make
so
sense?
It was just the idea of like the used car salesman.
Yeah, I guess that sort of a thing. And so he got into actually helping people buy and sell because he wanted to help his friends, right? And that just grew over time. And as you can imagine, over time, as you're doing a great job for people and you're doing things that make them trust you and they feel like, wow, you went out of your way to actually make it right for me, and not just looking at your paycheck at the end. More and more, he had those people sending their friends and family back to him, right? Which has transitioned to me. Right now, as I've taken over Team Silva, and I'm running the team now, I see that effect. And what's really cool is now I've been in the business for, actively doing things for about 6 years. The last couple of years, I'm actually seeing people that I originally, contacted and helped coming back, or sending their friends, or sending their siblings or family back and saying, Jon and his team really took great care of me. I believe that they're going to take care of you. Right.
You're making like lifelong relationships.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. And that's one of the cool things about the company that I work at, Keller Williams, is they preach that, right, which really resonates with me, and how I would want to be treated.
Yeah.
And so, it's really cool to see that come full circle, and see the fruits of your labors come back to you, sort of a thing.
That's
right?
awesome.
Cool,
yeah, that's really cool. I think what you had just stated right now is kind of how I built my actual company too, because I was always at the office saying hi to everybody, not really doing it on purpose. It was just more just getting out of my comfort. I was there because I was working there for a month, and then I kind of just got used to being there. And then I got hired right away by Hadia doing the videos, the personal videos or testimonial videos for her clients. And then from there, I kind of just started getting used to the office, like just walking around like I own the place, like, oh yeah, just walking wherever I want, just sitting down wherever I want and talking to whoever wants to talk to me. Right. But of course, getting to know my clients as far as like just person to person, it kind of established a relationship where like, okay, yeah, I'm going to hire you for your business services, but I also want to see you and just get more, I guess, just start talking to you as if we were at the office. And yeah, I do agree, is like just you have to treat your clientele as if they were either close friends or establishing some sort of friendship, relationship towards the actual workspace that you're in. As far as like what you're trying to do, it's not just I'm going to service you and then that's it. No, it's more of like, I'm going to service you and I'm going to actually treat you like a person. And I think that's what we're talking about, the used car salesman. They're just trying to sell you whatever they can to just get it out of the lot so they can make their commission, and that's it. You never hear from them again. Your car breaks down. They don't care, But that's awesome. As I met your dad. He's a really funny guy too. He's like, he has a character. I was like, I could definitely see him being a people person. Are you more like his character? Because I think he has like a little bit more like, right away he's more energized, I guess. Like it's just his persona is just like you could feel his energy. And then for you it's just like, okay, you have to feel the room out and then you open up. I'm like, all right, there's Jon right there.
No, definitely. I do that. I think my wife might disagree in a lot of cases. I think it has to do with who you're around, right? What the climate is in wherever you are. But you're right. Yeah, my dad he has a very high I in his personality, right? Where he can walk into any room, anywhere, and just immediately be comfortable, and he has friends, right? And he's the life of the party, and he doesn't even really try. I mean, at least from what I can see.
Yeah, it comes out natural for sure.
And what's crazy about that is he'll tell you if you ask him, like, how are you like this? He says to me, I didn't know him in high school, right? But he says he was a shy kid, right? He was athletic and whatever, but he was a shy kid. Getting up in front of people and talking, going into a room and being the center of attention, no way, right? But it was something that he grew into.
Okay.
And I think that's part of why I am the way that I am, especially, in our interactions, at homes and things like that, is largely because of him.
Yeah, okay.
And it makes it, I think it kind of makes it easier to be more comfortable when there's almost kind of an expectation, right? Because a lot of people that I meet in the real estate industry know my dad, right? And I think because of that, and they know how he is, it's a lot easier for me to be authentic and myself with them, if that makes sense. Because there's almost like, maybe expectation's not the right word, but you get where I'm going with that. Where they kind of, oh, you're Jonathan's son, right? And they feel like they can be comfortable and calm too, right? Which is really cool.
He already broke the ice for you as far as like if you're going back to a client that he had served in the past.
Yeah.
You're like, oh yeah, we know your dad, and already commonality, from already seeing your dad, understanding how he is, understanding his morals and his values, and like, oh yeah, you must be just like your dad, and you like in right away. And for sure, like you do have high standards when it comes to the real estate stuff that you do. I've seen your clients, like as far as like what I've seen in person when you're there with me, they're always very happy to see you, and like you're very talkative, and you telling them like, okay, we could do this and this, and you're like already understanding the business side, but then of course you gravitate towards the actual personality side, as far as like it doesn't have to be always about business. Let's talk about your family, let's talk about your friends, how you been, how are your kids, and all that stuff. So but yeah, definitely your dad has that I could definitely see your dad just going anywhere and just becoming friends with everybody.
He does.
Yeah.
He does. He goes on these crazy adventures, and and he does the same thing in other countries. Like he just go anywhere. He doesn't even speak the language, and he just makes friends.
Yeah.
Right? He's just really good at that.
Yeah.
I know we're kind of talking a lot about my dad. I've referred back to him a lot, but I think he's just a big part of my story and why I am where I am and the way that I am.
Are you more of the shy person, or are you the actual like outgoing, just like similar to your dad?
Yeah, I think I'm similar to him, just kind of on a more mild level.
Okay, gotcha.
Right?
Gotcha.
I do. I especially in a situation where I don't maybe know as many people, I do exactly what you said.
Okay.
I kind of get in, I'll feel kind
Feel the room.
of, how's it going, right? And then I'll know how I can interact.
Yeah.
The best, or
I think I'm the same way. Like I
takes a
feel
minute.
like initially, and people have said this to me too. They're like, initially, like you come off kind of quiet, but then once you're like, you fill the room out, once you actually like see the person you want to talk to, it's like you're not the quiet person.
Right.
So they're like, they get confused because they're like, you're not shy, but also there's like a part of you that is like a little withdrawn at times. So yeah, I'm like that too.
For sure.
Yeah, I fake it.
You fake your comfort?
Yeah, I fake it.
100%.
For sure.
So that's what I was going to say. I feel like when I first met you, right? I think you going around the office and sitting and talking, like you were saying, that was you putting on a show.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll still go there and I'll put on a show. Like, and they gravitate towards me now. I'm like, oh, I need to go now, but no one's letting me go. I'm like, I understand I am bringing you entertainment, but I gotta go. I gotta go.
Yeah. I feel like, and we don't have a ton of interaction, right?
Yeah.
We've got, 15 minutes at a house, now and then. But I feel like I've seen you grow, from, maybe putting on a show is not the right thing, right? But,
no, it's a show.
But forcing yourself to be comfortable, right? Doing what you need to do for business. And I think I've seen that grow to where you are much more comfortable without having to try. Right?
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, no, I'm more comfortable on the idea of what an agent is now. That's where my comfortability is coming from, where in the past, in my head, I was walking into an office, everybody looked professional, and I always look the same, same type of t-shirts, literally just look like a kid that's come off of a skateboard. So for me, it was just like, it was just very like different environment, different feel, different type of conversations that were going on in the office. I didn't know about numbers, digits, and transactions. And I'm like, I have no idea what you guys are, the commonality of what I could talk to you about will probably bore you, and that was kind of going in my head. But little by little, I started to get to know the agents, and then from there, like, okay, he's into sports, or he's into skateboard, he's into photography. He's not just a business person. So I kind of started to realize, oh, these are people. These are literally these just people that like doing this type of work. And then, of course, doing the work that I'm doing, I had to then learn a little bit of the section of what you're doing as far as like the workspace in order for me to direct you when we're at the listings. I'm like, okay, you said this, but maybe let's bring it down and let's condense it, because you're talking to the majority as far as like the general senses of like your audience. So not a lot of people are going to understand certain terminologies as far as like how you guys understand it. So that's where I come in. I'm like, okay, I don't understand what you're saying, so let's bring it down just a tad bit, so that then your audience could say, okay, I get what he's saying now. So, but yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's more of just, I had to understand where you guys are coming from, who you guys were really, as far as like as people, like, okay, these are regular people. that's it. And then from there, I'm like, okay, I'm now getting comfortable.
Which is a huge benefit for us, because I know you've done that for me several times, right? Like, hey, you just said way too much. You know, how can we condense that, you know, into an easier message, which is huge for us, right? Because I mean, obviously, I've worked with several photographers, right? And there is a difference. And I think that's, you know, I didn't even really think of it before, but I think that is probably part of the reason that I use you, right? Is because not only do I feel comfortable, right? Because we have created that relationship, but I believe that you will tell me, right? You'll tell me, Jon, your collar's sticking up, right? Or you got something on your face, or I wouldn't have said that, right? And I'm getting ready to put my face out there. I'm going to say something that's going to be online, right? It's going to be out there, and I want it to be good. I want it to be right. And I trust that you're going to be looking out for me in that respect also, right?
But also pick at you though. Like, as far as like, if you mess up, I'm like, I'm not get at that. Like, I got you. Like, every time you do your intro, I'm like, oh,
when I come on sounding like a Smokey the Bear car salesman, right?
I'm like, only you could prevent forest fires. I was like, that's how you sound like, Jon. And we just started laughing for like a good 5 minutes. I'm like, all right, let's get it. Now we got the energy going. Now we could actually establish like the idea that you're not as comfortable as it looks, you know? Right, so I need you to like at least get a smile, or at least start joking around a little bit with me, so that it doesn't come off on the camera where you're just stiff.
Isn't it? And that's so huge, right? And we were just talking about that before, how, you know, you don't get to see all those cuts, really, right?
All the bloopers, which is
good.
Which is funny, because it's like, I always, when I see like your intros, I'm always like, oh, he's always so like prepared, and everything's like so put together.
Thank you, Irvin.
And then like, right before, you're like, oh, you know, I messed up so much, and I was like, what? I don't see any of that. I think I saw like one once, and because, you know, I see kind of more of the finished like video of the intro, and so like my perception of you is like, oh, he's like very serious, like more like very professional. And then like there's one time that there was like a little bit of like where you messed up, and I was like, oh, he's kind of silly. He's not like this, like he's not super like serious the way that I perceived you. So you guys do a good job.
And I think this platform right here that we're doing, as far as like the podcast, is so that people could actually start recognizing those traits that I've recognized in people that I've kind of come and like seen and grown with. Like she said, all she's seen is the finished product, as far as like, hi, my name's Jon Silva and I'm here. So that as far as like this platform is, one, to start promoting the people that we work with, but then also to understand that you guys are more than what they see of, as far as like what you guys post, because you guys do come off really professional, and it is a good thing, but then it's also a bad thing, because they're not recognizing you guys have different personality traits that they could then compare themselves to. I'm like, oh, I would have said this too, and then I would have laughed just the same way. So those little hiccups, the little, you know, personality traits, I feel like it's very, very important to start like promoting as well. And I kind of tried my best to preach it to the agents that I've worked with in the past. Some agents have followed, as far as like, okay, try your best to use your stories not as your portfolio, but as far as like a big brother kind of camera, just so that people could start recognizing like you're not just an agent. You know, you go to Starbucks too, you go out to eat too, you know, you like pizza, you do other stuff besides real estate. And I think that's very, very important, because like she's saying, you're coming off like just as a machine, you know, like you're just the guy.
You're saying I need to mess up on camera, right?
You need the bloopers. No, I think
we need to
that's
set the
something
bloopers.
Though that's becoming more relevant, like the whole like showing more of your like personal side, more of the instead of the professional. I think the professional, like that aspect, was really big a few years ago, but now with social media, like you're starting to see more people are like want the authentic self. Like that's what like is like becoming really big, and a lot of people are connecting with that. And so that's true. Like I think that we're starting to see that shift now with like professions, where it's like, okay, like we're used to being more professional and presenting ourselves more professional, but now it's like, okay, we got to ease up on that a little bit and be a little silly sometimes and, you know, do that. So,
well, it's kind of going back to what your dad was doing in the past. He was very genuine as far as like going to the clients, talking to everybody, becoming friends with everybody. But now you have to do it in a broader scale, which is in front of a camera, which it could be harder to do because you have to be somewhat scripted as far as like what you're going to say and how you're going to say it. But then again, like I said, when it comes to podcasting, it's just a different platform where nothing's scripted. There's nothing in front of me that I have written down. As far as like when we started, I just kind of started. I'm like, just as a conversation that we would go into a house, I'm like, hey, John, how you doing? And then from there, we'll just get going. And then it's literally just a conversation that there's nothing that I could say that we have written down or that you have written down. And for now, it's just like, okay, conversation and let it go, and that's it. You know, if we mess up and if we don't know what to say, then it is what it is. But that personality needs to come out in a different way, and this is kind of why we're trying to always promote different things for not only for ourselves but for you guys as well, so that you guys could not only stick with that old platform or old formats. We're just trying to figure out a way where, like, how could we promote their name and their brand in a way where it could succeed not only and benefit for us, but it benefits you guys, because now you guys are now getting that audience that you guys maybe wouldn't have gotten if we didn't come up with certain things for you guys. But that's the idea of always, you know, evolving in different platforms. You know, it's not going to always be the same script that I have down for all the agents. The way that I have it formatted for you guys, it's more the time consumption. You're like, okay, we have a 3-piece intro and that's it. Your name, highlights, and your outro. And then if you can't do that, then I'm sorry, I can't help you out. You know, it's like very, very simple, but it's to the point. People get to see your face, people get to hear your voice, and then I could actually go in and out and do the house at the time that I need to get it done, so I could go do another house. But now it's more of like, okay, what else could we do so that we could promote your name and promote your personality as well, not just very like scripted. I'm like, okay, this is what you got to do, John, and stand over here and don't look over there, and you know, that kind of thing. So so always evolving. Some of
that shine through, right? Which all builds toward, you know, everything that we've talked about, really, with you know, kind of your journey, my journey. The reason that there's 3 reasons that people choose to do business with anyone, right? An agent's going to come to you. Number 1, they have to know you, right? They also have to like you, right? To some extent, right? You're not going to, you know, I know that guy, but he's a real jerk, you know you, like you, and then trust you, right? And by being authentic, by doing these sorts of things, right? By messing up now and again, right? or showing your true self and being silly or whatever it is, I think what we're doing by doing that is building that, I guess maybe like in some cases like a virtual relationship, right? Where people are able to see, okay, you know, it's not just, you know, that strict professional side, you know, it is a human, right? You know, and that helps people that already know you and probably like you, if they're seeing your stuff, be able to trust you more. And as they trust you, that's when you're able to create that real relationship and actually help people. Yeah.
And as far as like the photographers that you've used in the past, were you doing videos with them as well?
Yeah.
Oh, you were?
I was.
Oh, interesting.
And that was that was one thing that I kind of struggled with, right? The pictures were great, but there wasn't really any direction with the video, right? And not to the photographer's fault or anything. Like, I mean, he showed up and he was ready. He had his equipment, right? But some of the little things that you do, right? Like making fun of me at the beginning so that I can get those, you know, get the stiffness out or whatever it may be. We didn't have that. We didn't have that relationship, right? And so that's, you know, that's one of the things that was kind of, I was never really tied to anyone, right? I used, while I was using that person, I also used somebody else. And then I tried this other guy who called me because his kid's, you know, in school for photography and wanted to try some stuff out, right? And I was like, okay, sure, yeah, let's try. Whereas now, like I know you, I like you, I trust you, I know what I'm going to get, right? And it's quality.
Yeah. Right? Thank you. Yeah, for sure. As far as like what I've built, as far as like the whole idea of building relationships with the agents and of course understanding what you guys are trying to say, it's more of the benefactor of like, I want to make sure that you're a returning client as well. You know, that's my thing. You know, like it took me a while to actually get into that office, establish a relationship with everybody. I'm not going to just lose it to anybody just because I got lazy or complacent or, you know, like, oh, I already have clients and I don't want to keep building. Like, no, I'm going to keep learning in order for me to keep evolving whatever it is that is going to come up next. You know, if I could create it, excellent. But if I can't, I need to learn where the market's going to go and how it's going to help you guys out in order for how it's going to help out my team. Because right now it's more of like, now we have an established studio. Now we have, you know, things to pay for, insurance and everything. So it's a commitment in order for me to keep succeeding for myself, but also for the team. And then also so that it evolves the idea of what you guys are as agents. And we're trying to do it with other benefactors as far as the other businesses. Right now we're sticking to real estate because this is where the fundamental of the money is coming from. Right. But later on it's going to need to evolve to other sections until we build a system where it's kind of running itself. Like right now we're doing a bunch of training with the photographers and videographers, which you have seen too. Mm-hmm. When I go to your listings, I'll tell Israel like, okay, this is what I'll have him do. And then I'll kind of direct you, but I'm also teaching him. Right. And then hopefully he kind of gets that momentum going for himself as well, so that he could build that confidence, so that he could go do a house. And if there's an agent that's a newer agent and I'm not there and she's, hey, could I do an intro? He already knows what to do. And of course that's that comfortability just comes through repeating that process, and experience will also like determine where he's at in that path. Mm-hmm. But as right now, it's like, I don't want to get comfortable because, you know, comfortability for me, it's like, I've already been poor. I don't want to be poor anymore, you know. Yeah. I've been poor once. It's not fun. So for me, it's like, okay, keep learning, keep establishing yourself as far as like not only within the product, but also establishing some sort of friendship and developing connections with that friendship. As far as like when it comes to people that I've come up with, you know. Right. I kind of started doing the whole directing side more off of my impatience as well. I'm not going to lie, because like your photographer, he came in with his equipment and his tripod and I'm guessing his microphone. Yeah. And I was thinking like in the past, I'm like, oh, these guys wear ties. These guys do all this business transactions. They know what to say, like easy. Mm-hmm. So I came in thinking the same thing. Like, okay, they're just going to go in and say their little script and I'm out. Right. But in reality, it became more of like, what should I say? I'm like, what? Right? You're asking me. I don't even own my house.
You start coaching, right?
Yeah.
You turn into a coach.
I don't even live in a house. How am I going to say about the house you're trying to sell? Like, I have no idea. So it became more of just the idea of like, okay, teach yourself in order to actually kind of make them more comfortable as far as like in front of the camera. Because I'm not used to being in front of the camera either. So I had to establish that experience as well for myself. Like right now, as far as like what we're doing, I started it 2 years ago with my old podcast. If you watch those podcasts, very uncomfortable. Like you could tell like my body was just like twitching. I'm like, I don't want to be here, but I was doing it just so that I could just like build some sort of habit and then try your best to understand what these realtors are going after, and then understand that you can't be too judgmental as well, because I already know that feeling too. Like, I don't want to be in front of the camera. I know they don't want to be in front of the camera. Mm-hmm. So how could we make it easy as far as like for both parties, so that you guys could get it done, and then I could kind of like, all right, I'm directing it, but there's a direction with purpose as far as like what you guys are trying to say, and then that way we both just are basically making our lives easier at the end of the day. Like I said, my impatience became the idea of like, okay, I need to start understanding what they're trying to say, so that then the next person, it becomes so much easier. So I could just say, okay, I get it. We're going to break it down in 2 pieces, 3 pieces. And then I'll literally feed them the words. I'm like, just say your name, the location. And that's it. That's so easy. But in the beginning, it was like, they were trying to say the address, and sometimes they'll say the numbers wrong. And then they'll call me like,
too much to mess up, right?
They'll tell me like, oh, we can't use that intro no more. I'm like, we just literally spent 2 hours trying to get that intro.
That's what we were just talking about before. You know, it's weird because we've done it too, right? Where we stand there and you're like, okay, why don't you run through it real quick so that you know what you're going to say, right? And I'll say it perfectly, right? And then all of a sudden, you hold the camera up a little higher and the little red light's on. It's like, I forgot everything, right? It's like walking in here today. It's like, how many cameras are there? Like,
Yeah,
take a couple deep breaths before you sit down. Right?
It is intimidating.
Right?
It's a very intimidating. As far as like, as far as like what we're doing now, like how I'm actually just putting myself in this position, I am kind of getting used to it. But even this morning, like throughout when I woke up, I'm like, I have to do a podcast. What am I going to say? What if I like? It's already escalating in my head because I'm more of the photographer, videographer, content creator, not the actual person that wants to be in front of the camera.
Right.
But in order for me to actually keep doing what I'm doing, I need to actually present myself into the space where I'm like, if I could do it, I know you could do it. You know, like there's no reason why someone cannot put themselves in uncomfortable spots so that they could actually escalate or not escalate to actually move towards the goals that they want to actually hit throughout the year, if not throughout their lives. Like right now, when we actually started doing all the camera setups, you walked in, you got here early, and I'm like, all right, it's starting, you know, I started sweating. And then of course you sat down, we got everything going. I had to go downstairs for like 2 seconds, 5 seconds, because it's just that anxiety, it's the buildup, you know, like
is that why you left?
I always do that. Like literally every time we do a podcast, I'm always going to go downstairs and just like take a breather. I'm like, okay, wash my face. I'm like, okay, like literally, I just need to like, because the idea of like being the photographer, videographer, I'm used to that. I'm used to just
being behind the camera.
Yeah, being behind the camera, being the tech guy, like, okay, connecting this, connecting that. There's no thinking. There's no process of like nothing. It just comes already naturally to me. But thinking about what I'm going to do next, and then that's where I'm like, okay, what are you doing?
Well, that's your own process of making fun of me on my first take, right?
Exactly.
Right?
Just faking
Break
it.
the ice, right?
just faking it. Yeah, but yeah, there's definitely a process for everything. I've definitely seen the growth as far as like even when it comes to your intro videos, you're starting to actually get more comfortable. You come with your little script, and then of course you forget about the script because I tell you it's too long, and then we have to start over. But I'm actually seeing the I guess the responsibility that you're taking in beforehand, because we do service so many agents to the point where I can't be there anymore on every listing. And I understand that a lot of agents are very hesitant to use other photographers because they've established a relationship with me. And it's kind of like it's been a blessing, but then it's also like the default of like, why aren't you there? And then I'm like, because I can't be everywhere all at once. And I'm trying to get my photographers to kind of do the same thing with the same agents, but it's very hard because those agents, they're like almost like they're putting walls already. They're like, no, we don't want this person, even though they're going to deliver. Is like, so it's one of those catch-22s. Like as far as like, okay, I did it. I've established clients for myself.
You did such a good job at it that they just want to.
Yeah, exactly. So now it's more of like, okay, what could we do? And if you have any advice as far as like to give us, that would be great, because that's something that we're kind of working around now. As far as like our old clients, they're like, when are you available? And I'm like, well, I'm not available until next week, but I have Jordan, Israel, Aaron, you know, they're available this at this time, and I'll send them their time, and they're like, we'll wait until next week. I'm like, why are you
Irvin available next?
Yeah, why are you waiting? And for our website, we had to take my name off because all they're doing is they're clicking my name.
Just clicking on you.
And I'm like, I need a weekend or I need a day off to actually rest. And as right now, we're kind of working around it right now. Like we've been kind of grinding for like the last 3 years as far as like with InView Media. With the training, and also just basically doing the same work that we've been doing when I was doing it by myself. But now it's more of like, what could I do, or what could we say to have these clients just like trust the new photographer or videographer?
Right. Well, I think for me, you've been through some transitions, right, with your team, and I've been there through some of that. And at first, I'll tell you, I was like, Irvin's not here. Like, okay, like we'll see how this goes. But I see a direct correlation to how I grew into real estate, right? When I moved back here from Texas and decided, okay, this is what I'm going to do, and I started working with my dad, I didn't actually help any clients for a long time. Like, I was my dad's shadow. He was my coach. He was my mentor. And so I went on listing appointments with him. I went when he showed houses, when he did open houses. I went when he did buyer's presentations and like all these different things. I sat there while he was on the phone, right? He just put it on speakerphone, talking to a lender, talking to an appraiser, whatever it was. And I just sat there and listened and absorbed. Didn't open my mouth, nothing. I just absorbed everything, right? And now, fast forward years, now I still call my dad regularly and I say, hey, this situation came up. Here's what I did. Here's what I said. What do you think? Right? And I'm telling you, overwhelmingly, almost every time he says, that's what I would have said. Right? And I think that was the comfort point for him when he felt like he could start to transition out of active real estate, and know that his friends and family that he's built up this relationship with over 30 plus years, he felt comfortable enough to step aside and let me be the main face, the voice, the people, the person that people meet with, because he knew that I was going to say what he would say, right? I would direct them the way that he would direct them, right? So he felt like, they're in good hands. And I was around long enough in the shadows that people started to recognize me, right? Yeah. So if he couldn't be there for an appointment and it was me, they're like, okay, he's been here this whole time, right? Through the process. And I think the same thing with you, and I think you're doing it right, you have those photographers there, you have those employees there with you, and you're coaching them. Here's what I would do here, right? And I've seen you standing behind the camera with them, and we'll try this, try that, and they go, oh, and that light comes on. I've seen that happen several times where I've been there, and I think that's where I have a trust, right? Because again, I've been here through some of your building, and obviously when you're building anything, there's going to be people that leave and come and go and whatever it is. And I grew to trust and have grown to trust people that are on your team because I know what you put into it, right? And I've been there for some of the other people that you've coached, and I felt comfortable with them, right? Sure, it took a couple times where I was like, I kind of wish everyone was here. But, when they're doing the same things, right? It's that comfort, right? Where it's like, okay, yeah, he would stand over here, right? Or I see him walking around and closing blinds and doing this, to make sure that, stand over here, your head's in the light too much. I think it's those little things that you do that as you coach these people, you're duplicating yourself, right? And that's really the only way that you're really gonna grow with any business, right? Is finding ways to duplicate what you're doing, as long as what you're doing is what people like.
Yeah, of course.
And you're doing that.
Yeah, thank you.
I see it.
Yeah. Any advice for any realtors that are hesitant to use it?
Just do it. Just do it. I mean, everything, like I said, you've got to, the only way that you learn to trust someone is by experiencing something with them, right? You got to try something new. Until you try it, I mean, you just don't know. Yeah. I think that's a lot with anything, right? You don't know what you don't know until you try something new, right? And then it's like, oh man, what have I been missing out on? Yeah. Right?
No, okay. That's something that we've been kind of going around as far as like that conversation between myself and her, and then of course the team members. I'm trying my best, because when they do the internship, they're always with me. Consistently, like, okay, you're going to need to go to every house that I'm at, because you're going to need to see what I'm doing, and then you're going to need to actually just establish yourself as far as a face in front of the realtor. If not, I need to see how you interact with the clients, or if not with their clients, and then kind of work around, like start building a relationship too. But even for them, I'm starting to notice like, okay, you need to get out of your comfort zone. You need to talk a little bit, even though like I get it, you're trying to learn, but you need to multitask now, because it's a lot. Like we've been at it for 3 years, trying to build the team. And like you said, people come and go, and it's like, okay, when they go, I'm like, oh, you have to start over. I'm like, oh my goodness. And I'm like, okay, what could, like, that was a question. Like, what could I do better to like make the system run, I guess, faster, or the transition? I may be being impatient as far as like what I'm saying right now. Because I think what we're doing is kind of what we need to be doing. But at the same time, like I'm like, please just trust my team. Like they'll do it.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, see, and I think I'm to a point now where if you were to tell me, John, I'm not going to be there, you know, someone else is going to be there, I would be fine with that. I'd be disappointed because I like hanging out with you. I like our conversations.
Yeah.
But I would understand, you know, that if you're not going to be there, there's a reason, right?
Yeah, for sure.
There's too much going on. There's, you know, you're already committed somewhere else or whatever it may be. But I also know that whatever happens at that shoot, right? Whatever the end result, the product is, I'm confident that one of you is going to be like, hey, you know, we should probably come back and, you know, something different somewhere, right? Like I believe, like I feel like we have a good enough relationship where I know that you're going to look things over and you're not going to send me something that's questionable or, you know, that shouldn't have been there, right? I trust that.
Yeah, okay,
right?
gotcha.
Yeah.
Me personally. But I think you're doing it right. You know, that's one of the things they tell us when we're, my coach has told me countless times in real estate is always be recruiting, right? You can't expect that somebody's going to stay with you forever.
Yeah, of course.
Right? That's part of the nature of running a business is there's going to be attrition. There's going to be people that come and go, right? There's only going to be, you know, those core people that are going to stay with you long term, right? But that's just the nature of business, right? Everybody has their own aspirations and just always be recruiting, I guess. I don't know.
I guess this is my life.
Keep going.
Yeah.
We're kind of starting to like accept that what you're saying. It's like not everyone's always going to be there. Like people are going to come and go, and that's kind of what the part we're at now. I think.
Yeah, and I'm actually understanding more of the idea of what an employee is now. As far as like there's different employees. As far as like when I see a person that is just using me as a transition. I have a hard time to put a lot of energy in that person because it's just like that energy that I'm trying to give you is to benefit you. You know, I'm not getting anything from you at this point because at the training, it's like to benefit you, not to benefit me at that point. Because I haven't made any money from you yet. Right. I'm trying to make you a duplicate of myself so that you could then establish your own clientele, build your own like platform within the business, start making a living, doing photography, videography. But what I'm now noticing, and I think I'm starting to grow as far as like as a business person, as far as like the evolution of myself from the beginning to now, it's a little bit different. I could definitely see I was more open-minded to the idea that people were just willing to just, hey, there's an opportunity here and I'm going to take it at its fullest. Not everyone thinks that way. A lot of people are just excited in the moment and then they just, oh, it's work. And then that energy kind of just derails. I'm like, yeah, where was that energy that I saw that the first month or two that you were with me? And now it's kind of like faded away. So that means in my head, it's like, I just wasted 2 months, you know, that kind of thing. But now I'm getting into the idea. I'm like, not everybody is as driven or self-motivated. Not every creator wants to make money. Not every creator is willing to make the sacrifices that they need to do to actually become a successful content creator. And as far as like yourself too, realtors are, you know, you guys are kind of self-employed. Yeah. We understand that too. Like I said, I came into the office thinking that you guys all drove BMWs and nice cars. And I'm like, oh, there's a couple Toyotas too, you know, a couple Hondas. So not everyone is wanting that BMW, not everybody's wanting that Lamborghini. So it's more of just like, okay, everyone works at their pace. Everyone's going to be different. Self-employed people are just going to be self-employed. I've seen realtors come and go. As far as like from the time that I've been in this side of the business. So I could definitely understand like, okay, not everyone's going to push themselves willingly without someone actually telling them to do certain things that they need to do. But yeah, it's just the evolution, I guess.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I think that goes back to kind of what you're saying about like finding people who, like you don't like doing the paperwork stuff, right? So it's like finding what those people like to do and fitting them into those areas of your business and like building it up that way, right? Like,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I mean, there's obviously something to be said for getting the right person for the right spot, right? You know, one of the things it's the other thing I love about Keller Williams is the top people there are willing to share exactly what it is that they're doing that's making them successful. And so I have conversations all the time. One of the recent conversations I had with a top producer was the fact that when you bring someone onto your team, right? And this, I think this applies wholly to what you're talking about. It's all about what you can pour into them, right? And not having so much of an expectation for them, but helping them to realize what it is they want, but just be willing to just always be pouring into that person, right? Always. And I think you're doing that, right? Where you're giving more opportunities. I don't know exactly what your structure is for your mentorship, but I can only assume it probably starts with something basic, right? Maybe still photography, right? They're just doing the stills through the house, right? And then they maybe graduate to drone or video, or right. And as you build on that, and as you build on your business in general, right? Where it's not just taking pictures of houses. Now it's video and drone. And then now it's not just that, but you're, offering commercials and, whatever, and podcasts and right. All these things, as you expand that, you're giving way to more things for people to grow into, right? And as you continue to grow that, and as you continue to pour into those people, that's what's going to make them want to stay with you longer, right? Because the value that you're providing to them, right?
No, I definitely agree on that. But I'm kind of like you said, the reason why I like going to the office too is because they are willing to share their experiences and of course their why, as far as like what's motivating them, as far as like waking up early in the morning. I stuck around a lot with Rima in the beginning because I did see her as a mentor, and she kind of just like took me in. Like right away, she saw my potential before I saw my potential. Like literally, she wanted to contract me the day that I met her. She's like, I want you to be on my, I want to put you on a monthly contract. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, why? Like I just came in doing a testimonial video for someone else for her. And then the idea, I'm like, oh, I like the direction that you're giving me. I like the pointers that you're giving me. I like that you're actually setting something for me without actually expecting nothing in return. Right. And I think that's kind of what she saw. And from there, we established a friendship. Of course, I denied that contract because I didn't know what it implied. At the beginning, I was like the more artist-minded person. And it worked out at the end for me as well, like not saying yes to the contract, because then I wouldn't have been able to go and talk to you or talk to these other realtors, because now it would have been exclusive to her. Right. I think that's what a lot of realtors are doing now too, as far as like within teams, they're bringing in content creators and they're like, oh, he's just for me and my team and that's it, which is fine if it works for them. Right. But for me in the beginning, when I first started, there was no content creators in the office. I was coming in, I'm like, oh, naive. I'm like, oh, da, da, da. Like no one was really telling me prices as far as like when it comes to real estate photography, videography. Everybody was very hush hush, and I was just building from scratch. Like from the $50 to the $100 to the $150 to the $200 to $250, then so on and so forth. But I kind of had to do it where I'm like, okay, numbers is not for me, but let me talk to somebody that could actually allow me to say you are worth what you're telling me. And that's kind of what Rima did for me. She allowed me to build confidence in myself, not only to give her the products that I was giving her at the time, but also to say like, you deserve this check or you deserve this and this. So after she left, of course I still keep in touch with her, but it's more of just like, I could still talk to her. Like I could call her at any point and tell her like, hey, what do you think about this? And she was like, oh, you could say this and this and this. Of course, I don't bug her as much just because I'm busy, she's busy. So I don't want to like interrupt anything that's going on with her, but I know I still have that connection with her. But like you're saying, like there are people in that office that are willing to just give that experience and just willing to teach or mentor without hesitation, as far as like the expectation. It's not really meant
about me. Yeah,
exactly. It's not really there. And you could definitely see the difference between those that are wanting that type of connection where they're expecting something in return. Sure. And I've recognized that too. And I was actually put aside from someone at that office, and they told me that. They're like, Irvin, you need to watch out, because once again, I came in new as a kid. I'm like, oh, just walking in, everybody's greeting me like, oh, you're the son of, no, I'm not the son of anybody. I'm just someone that is, doing real estate photography. And of course, once that one person saw the attention that it was kind of going towards me, he pulled me aside and told me, like, look, they're just putting a facade because they're wanting something from you. So you just have to understand who is actually being your friend or who's just pretending to be your friend. And I have to analyze that for myself now, as far as like back then. So I understand the difference between those that are willing to actually give you experience without expectation, and then those that are just wanting to give you that experiences with the expectation of getting something in return.
Right.
So, but yeah, I do agree.
Yeah. It's just finding a way to always come from contribution, right? Like, I think if we focus on that, Keller Williams has a program called Bold, and it's kind of at the forefront of my mind right now because we're going to be starting it in the next couple of weeks here. And it has a lot of good like quotes, right? Or phrases to live by. And one of those is to always come from contribution, right? And what you focus on expands. So if you're focusing on how can I pour into someone, right? How can I help this situation? If you focus on that, the byproduct will be more business or a better relationship, or things will come from it. But if you're focusing on what the outcome is going to be, like you said, you recognize that pretty quick, right? In any sales process, right? Do they really want to get me in the right product, in the right car, in the right whatever it is, or is this one just going to make them the highest commission, right? And similar to you, I think some people think of real estate agents as salespeople, right? I don't, right? I'm someone who's on your team, right? We're analyzing information together, because I'm not the one, if I'm taking a listing, I'm not the one that's buying it, right? So, and when it comes to buying, I'm not the one who's buying the home. So me trying to sell you on something, it doesn't work.
Yeah, and
right?
I've seen that exactly what you just said, as far as like the agent that is just wanting to sell you or get that house or searching for whatever house,
right?
Just for the idea of just like, let me just get rid of this client because I'm done, or I just want to get that the transaction as far as like the sell of the house.
Right.
When I go up to realtors, and this is for the realtors that are watching this podcast, I'm a realtor without a license, because I had to learn how to direct you guys. So when they're trying to sell me a house, and I understand the margins that's around, and the what exactly where the stock market's at, or where the house prices are at, or interest rates, I know this stuff.
Yeah, because as many houses as we are.
Because I hear it all day.
Yeah.
So when someone's trying to sell me something and tell me what they think I want to hear, either through, because of interest rates and it's a good time, like, no, I don't think so. Like, I always straight out tell them, like, understand that I know what you know, and I know what you're trying to do, so you have to stop. But that's for the realtors, like I said, those that are listening, stop trying to sell me a house, because I know what it's worth, and it's not worth my time as far as like entertaining that conversation, right? Because I am the realtor without the license now, because I had to learn so that I could direct you guys on what to say.
Right.
So you're just repeating what I had told someone in the past already.
That's awesome.
It's just a learning process as far as like what I've gone through as far as a creator, now going into business, now doing the management, building the system, trying to build a system where it's kind of like congruent to my lifestyle. My lifestyle is literally just work right now. And that's where I'm just really trying to like understand how could I build it where I'm not really needed as much, just because from the 3 years that I've been doing this, I maybe had taken 1 weekend off. Yeah. And then intentional too. Like I'm trying to do Sundays off, but it sometimes happens, it sometimes doesn't, because, things happen at a house where the client says, it wasn't ready. We thought it was going to be ready. And what happens? My Sunday is now gone, because now I had to go and say, I have Sunday off, and I could do it from this time to time, and that's it. And it happens, but that's kind of where I'm now trying my best to build a system where it works out for everybody, for you guys and for us. And it's a new thing in the new platform, because when your dad was doing real estate, there wasn't a lot of content that was being created for most realtors, and of course the professional photographers were mostly done for the luxury houses and of course for the videos as well. When I came in, it was still a new thing 3-4 years ago. That's not that long ago.
Yeah.
So it's fairly new. And at this point, I'm now seeing smaller companies out here in the AV that are doing what we're doing. And I think it's a good thing because now there's choice. And of course, there's more motivation for me to actually build that standard even higher for the team. But also it's putting the creator in a position that we weren't in, which is more of a control. Back then, it wasn't up to me when I wanted to do the house, if I wanted to do the house. It's like, you're either going to do the house or you're going to lose the client, and that's it.
Yeah.
So it's like, you're going to go and work and, build something, or you're just not going to work at all.
Right. Yeah.
So like now it's more of like, okay, if I say I can do it, I can't do it. If you get mad, I can't do nothing about that either.
Yeah, it is hard. Building is hard.
Yeah, definitely. Building is definitely hard. As far as like anything else that we haven't spoken about, because I know we're going to conclude the conversation because it's been an hour already.
Yeah.
Is there any words of wisdom that you may want to give out to any young kid that wants to be a realtor or even an entrepreneur?
Yeah. Oh, wow.
In the spot.
Yeah, on the spot, right? Well, I see career. I wasn't one of those kids, and I know we're short on time, but I wasn't one of those kids who, when you took those tests in school that told you like what kind of career path you should go for, those? Yeah, I was supposed to be like a farmer or a professional athlete, right? Because I like to be outside and I like to be active, right? And so obviously neither of those really worked out for me. But finding things that you're passionate about and then working towards those and seeing, does this serve me? Does this feel right? Is this something that not only can support the lifestyle that I want, but is this something that like resonates with who I am, right? And so I would say, yeah, if you want to get into real estate, great. Get into real estate, try it out. That's what I did. I tried out several things until I kind of found what fit, right? And this fits for me, right? It provides the sort of life that I want. I'm able to be with my family. I get to pick my kids up from school in the middle of the day sometimes. I get to drop them off in the morning and give them a kiss goodbye, and those are the sorts of things that mean something to me, right? Like that's what I live for is, being there for those moments. I love that what I do allows me to do that. And there obviously are levels to anything, right? Like you said, you could have stayed just the agent or the photographer that works for one person and you kind of got a routine, or you went a different route and decided to build something, right? And you put yourself under even more pressure to do that. And so there's levels to everything that we do. So I would just say find what serves you, find something that does that for you and go after it. Don't be afraid to fail, right?
Yeah.
Try.
Just try.
Try again.
One step at a time. One step at a time.
Yeah.
All right, you guys. Oh, before we conclude, I do want to give a shout out to George, which is behind the scenes right now. I met him 3 years ago, and consistently every year I would always see him in the same spot, same location, doing a listing. He sits in his car. He is this security watch person at his neighborhood.
Okay.
And we became friends just through literally just every single time I would do a house near his neighborhood, he was always in the same spot. And every time he would just always come out and just say hi. And we just became friends from there, like just by saying hi. And we usually have a team member as far as like doing the soundboard and doing the camera work. But like you said, we just, the building of that relationship. And I called him yesterday, or I texted him and he said, yeah, it's like literally like those are people that I want to keep in my life as far as like,
in your
okay,
circle,
in my circle, as far as like, okay, I could trust and also just rely on certain people just from just random situations. And it's always awesome to meet people like that too.
Yeah, that is awesome.
Yeah.
That is so cool.
Yeah. So thank you, George.
Thanks,
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Thank you for listening and watch out for the next one.
Next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.